everyone. Thanks so much for coming to this workshop. I'm Joss, and I am a founder of Mend Assembly, which is a space in Totnes. We're a place where you can come and make and learn how to make clothing, upcycle, mend clothing. We do all sorts of things there. So this is just one of the things that I like to do with old t-shirts. And so I'm going to show you today how to make one of these, which is what I call a tea bag, because it's a t-shirt made into a bag. And so I quite often run clothes swaps, and we run a permanent clothes swap at Mend Assembly in Totnes. And what we find is that there's quite often lots of leftover t-shirts, and it's a shame because there's lots of t-shirts in the world that no one wants to wear anymore. So we need to find things that we can do with them to make them useful again, so that they don't end up in the landfill. And so I'm going to now move my computer a bit, so bear with me a second so that you guys can see what I'm doing, and then you'll be able to follow along. Hopefully that looks okay. So what we're going to do first is make sure that everyone's got the right things that we need. So first of all, we need a t-shirt. I've got a few different ones here. Again, these are left over from the last clothes swap that I did. There's this one, which is quite nice, and it's got a bird on it, and you can see it's quite long and thin. So that would make quite a long, thin bag, which is one idea. This one is a nice yellow one, but it's quite short and wide, you can see. So if I use this one, it's going to make me probably quite a short, wide bag, which might be useful for some things, but maybe not for others. And then I've got this one, which is a nice red one, and it's quite a normal child size. It's got a number 1 on the back, and it's quite thick, strong fabric. So I don't know about you guys, but I think for this one, I'm going to use this nice red one. I'll put those other two over there for another day. So the first thing I want you to do, has everyone got their t-shirts ready? Hopefully. The first thing I want you to do is see if you can find a label on your t-shirt. Mine's here in the neck. Sometimes they're in the side seam. You could check there as well. Mine doesn't have side seams. Anyway, I want you to look at the label, and I want you to see if you can see two things. What kind of material is your t-shirt made out of? And see if you can see, where was your t-shirt made? Mine's made out of 100% cotton, and it says, I think it's made in Haiti. I know where that is. It's a long, long way away. And I know that they're very good at making clothes in Haiti. But I also sometimes wonder about the people that made the clothes, and I wonder who made my t-shirt. It's very nicely made. So have a look at your t-shirt and see if you can see where it was made, and think about the people that might have made it.
We've got some responses coming in, Joss. We've got one question as well. One t-shirt with long sleeves, is that a problem?
That's fine, because we're going to cut the sleeves off in a minute.
Marvellous. So we've got one that's cotton and from China, one 100% cotton and made in Turkey, and mine is 100% organic cotton, which is nice, and made in India. So they're all from quite far away places.
Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? Our t-shirts are coming from all over the world, and that means there's people all over the world who are making t-shirts.
Well, I've got one from Bangladesh as well. All seem to be 100% cotton, which is not surprising. Yeah, that is nice. And yeah, India and one in Bangladesh. Mine says earth positive on it as well, which is nice. So it's climate neutral manufactured solely using renewable green energy from wind and solar power. So that's nice.
And I think it's always good for us to think about the people who make our clothes, and also to make sure that that we're asking the brands that are making our clothes, they're asking them to make sure that they're taking good care of the people and paying them properly. So the next thing we're going to need is a pair of scissors. I've got these black, actually they're just my kitchen scissors, but they're quite strong and they're quite sharp, but not too sharp, but they're strong enough to cut through this fabric. If you're a bit little, I want you to get your mum or your dad or whoever else is helping you to use the scissors. And if you're a bit bigger, I'm sure you know how to use them, but please be careful. And also, I think if you have a bit of extra material somewhere, it's quite good just to test your scissors to see if they work. So I'm actually just going to test on this little yellow t-shirt. I'll show you. You can just do a little snip. One thing that's good, it helps if you have a nice flat surface like this, and if you put your t-shirt or whatever you're cutting, make sure it's nice and flat, make sure there's nothing underneath it, and that will help your scissors to do the job. So then you just slide your scissors under there, let the bottom rest on the table, and then give it a snip. Those are going to work. If you've got something to try, then try, but don't start cutting into your t-shirt. If you haven't got anything to try with, don't worry. Okay, so has everyone got scissors? Right. The other thing that you could have, if you want, you know, for later on, you could have some things like some little beads or some threads, or I've got a Fashion Revolution patch, which I might add onto my t-shirt. I've got some curtain rings, things like that. You can always add on later, and you'll see about that in a little bit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, if everyone's ready, is we're going to turn our t-shirts inside out. So here we go. Turn it inside out like that. And the reason why we're going to do that is so that we can see where these seams are, and then you can see where the sewing lines are on the inside. Okay, so everyone got that? Everyone done that? And then what we're going to do, if you've got a t-shirt that's got like this, what we call a neckband on it, that bit there where your head normally pops out, that is going to be the opening for your bag. So mine is quite small. If you want a small opening, you can leave the neckband, this part on. But if you think it's going to be too small, you can clip off and cut off this neckband. I think for my bag, I'm going to cut mine off because it's quite small. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off the sleeves. And this is why it doesn't matter if you've got a long sleeve or a short sleeve. And what I want you to do is follow this line here and cut on the sleeve side of that line and cut the sleeves off. So again, get your mum or dad to help you if you're too little to use the scissors by yourself. And then get your t-shirt nice and flat on the table. Snip in like that, just enough so you can get onto the line. Okay, and then carefully follow the line of the neck and trim so you cut off this neck band. Okay. Try and keep it as nice and straight and not too jaggedy as possible. But if it does go a bit jaggedy, it doesn't matter. The good thing about t-shirt material is you can cut it and it doesn't fray. And that means that all the yarns, because t-shirt material is knitted on big knitting machines, not by hand normally, it's knitted on a machine. And that's different to other fabrics that are woven, or shirt fabrics which are woven on looms. I'm going to save my label. You never know, I might find something to do with that later. So yeah, so when you cut it, it doesn't fray. So I'm going to also save this because I think that might be quite useful later as well. So I'm going to put that on the side. And now I'm going to cut off the sleeves. Is everyone doing okay? One thing you can try, if it's too, you can try and cut it all off in one go and cut through both layers at the same time. If you've got a really nice flat t-shirt and you can feel it's lined up. If your t-shirt's a bit more rumpled or not very straight, then just cut through one layer at a time and just go on the inside and do that. And I'm going to keep my t-shirt sleeves as well, so definitely keep your sleeves. If you don't use them for this project, put them in a bag and stash them for patching and mending and making dolls and all sorts of things. I find that these t-shirt sleeves are perfect for putting patches on leggings, because everyone gets holes in their leggings, don't they? And it's quite nice to have good t-shirt material to cut a shape and put a patch on your leggings. Right, so now we've got a t-shirt with no neck, or some people might have kept the neck, and no sleeves. Is everybody at that stage now? Is anyone still cutting?
I think everyone must be busy because there's nothing in the chat, and I'm almost cut off my second sleeve, so let's use that as a benchmark.
We'll just wait a little bit longer so everyone has time to carefully cut off the sleeves before we move on to the next step. My t-shirt definitely feels like it's 100% cotton and it's nice and thick. I think this is gonna, well, it's gonna last for a long time. One thing that's good to know about with t-shirts as well, to make them last longer, is when you put them in the washing machine, you should never ever put them in with things that have zips on, like jeans or jackets, or things that have zips cause problems in the washing machine for knitted fabrics like t-shirts. And it's that sometimes you find those little holes in your t-shirts or your leggings. And quite often it's because the zips in the washing machine, they rub on the t-shirt and they make little holes. So if you are going to put them in, make sure the zips are done up, and try not to wash t-shirt fabrics with jeans and things with zips.
That's a really good tip. I have a question which I didn't spot earlier in the Q&A, which is someone who's got a 1950s type t-shirt with short sleeves. I'm guessing they mean the little capped sleeves. Should she leave them on?
You can leave them on for now, I think. If you want to, just leave them on for now, and then you can decide afterwards. You might want to, for example, you might want to just snip them into little fringes, or you might want to do something else with them. So yeah, I'd say leave them on for now.
Fab, thank you.
It's a bit like this one that I made as well. I did the same. It's got this sort of shaped sleeve with no seam on it, so I left them as well, and I might do something else with them later. So yeah. Okay. So if everyone's okay, I'm going to move us on to the next step. And the next step's really simple. All we have to do is turn our t-shirt back so it's right side out. This is important, because otherwise, if you've got a nice pattern or a print or something, like that, you won't be able to see it. Is everyone managing to keep up? Okay.
I think so.
So now this next thing we're going to do is we're going to take it at the neck and we're going to open it this way. And then we're going to match up the sleeve seams so that our t-shirt is kind of opening sideways. Does everyone see that? If you like, you could get a little pin. If you've got any pins handy, maybe you don't, because all I asked you to bring was scissors. If you like, you could pin it together here so that it just holds it in place. Okay, and then you should be able to put your hand through, and guess what? That is going to be your handle of your bag now. That's going to be the handle. And so what I want you to do is to just make sure that that's all nicely lined up along the neck and the seams are together. And then lay your t-shirt down flat again, making sure that the fabric's nice and flat. There's no rumples. And then again, line up this bottom area, which is called the hem. Pat it down a bit. Make it nice and flat. Okay. So everyone managed to get to that step. I'll just give you a minute so you've got that all sorted. So now you can start to see what your bag is going to look like. This is your bag. And what we're going to do next, is everyone ready for the next step?
I think so.
Okay. What we're going to do next is, I'm sorry, I should have told you to bring a pen as well. If you've got a pen, then great. If you don't worry. But I'm just going to mark on the side of my t-shirt, how far up am I going to cut to make the ties at the bottom? Where's the bottom of my bag going to be? And I'm going to go for about this far up, about like that far up, about the width of my hand. Okay, so I'm going to put my hand here and I'm going to make a little notch on the side or little mark. If you haven't got a pen, don't worry, you can just cut a bit and then measure it with your hand when you get started. If we're going to do this by eye, I'm a big fan of doing things by eye because I think that's why we've got eyes, that's why we've got hands, because we don't always have measuring tools ready, but we've always got our eyes and our hands. So there we go. I'm going to mark again on this side. Okay. So there I've got, that's just going to give me a rough idea of where the bottom of my bag's going to be. Is everyone okay? Is everyone ready?
Looks like it. Gemma's got a lovely striped t-shirt, so she's using the stripes as her measure, which is very clever.
Perfect. That's a great idea. Now, some people, if you want to be a bit clever, or if you've got a really long t-shirt, and if you're into like fringy tassely bits, you can also, you could start a bit high up on the side and you could cut so that you've got a curved bottom of your bag. That makes sense. Sometimes I do that. So I start high up on the side, and then you could even draw yourself a line faintly if you want, and then you could just do it with your finger like that, and then you'll have a rounded bottom of your bag as well. That works best on really long t-shirts. If your t-shirt's a bit shorter like mine is today, then it's sort of better just to keep it a bit flatter. Okay, so here comes the fun bit. Again, if you've got someone else helping you with the scissors, now is their time to get ready with the scissors. And if you're using them yourself, just be careful, but be confident as well. The good, it's important to really cut. And like I said before, keep your material really nice and flat on the table. And we're going to start on this side over here. or on which side feels comfortable to you. And we're gonna cut up here with about, let's say, a fingernail, an adult fingernail or an adult thumbnail width wide. That's how wide our strip's going to be. So I'm just going to do one, just wait and watch what I do, and then when I've done it you can do the same. So here I am, I've got my finger there, and I know that it's roughly about that. It doesn't matter exactly how wide it is. I'm going to cut up as far as I got to my little point on the side there. Okay, and then on this outside one, and when we get to the other side as well, it's important, I'm also going to cut this one in half up on the seam. If you've got a seam in there, just cut one side or the other of the seam, doesn't matter which side, just so that that makes it into two instead of one on the end there. That makes sense. Okay, so we've got two little fringy strips there now on the side. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing all the way along. So now it gets a bit tiring, but now we just get cutting and we try and make each one roughly the same width and roughly the same length. If they're slightly different, it doesn't matter. And then once you've cut it, just make space to do your next cut. That's it, all the way across. I always try and think about other people when I buy clothes, you know, because actually it's quite nice when you've got some clothes that are really good, instead of cutting them up like we're doing today, you could pass them on to somebody else that you know who might like it or wear it, especially when you're growing all the time and your clothes are getting too small for you. It's nice to have someone who you know who you can pass your clothes on to. And even if you're a grown-up as well, it's quite nice to think about the fact that, you know, your clothes, if you take care of them and if they're really nice clothes, they'll become somebody else's clothes, because we either pass things on to people we know through clothes swaps and things like that, or if we take them to the charity shop, then somebody else might come along and buy them. But also when we give clothes to charity, our clothes get sent to other parts of the world, where other people in other parts of the world sometimes wear our clothes as well. And so it's nice to make sure that what we're sending to people or giving to people is good quality. And when we're buying things, that's another reason to buy stuff that's going to last, not just for ourselves but for other people as well, because if not, it ends up going into the landfill. Lots and lots and lots and lots of clothes end up just getting chucked in the landfill because they're not nice enough for anybody to wear. So that's just something else to think about before we start cutting them. But if no one really wants to wear them and they're really not going to be useful anymore, then we can do things like this and make them into something else that's useful still. So I'm coming to the end of my line here. It's a good practice for cutting straight. And if you haven't done much cutting on material before, you can feel it's a bit different to cutting paper, but it's quite satisfying. So my last one here, and when you get to your last one again, don't forget to cut that one to make it into two. So now we've got a whole line of these little fringes. How's everyone getting along? I think because it's so quiet, everyone's very busy cutting.
I think everyone, I'm nearly finished mine, and we have about 15 minutes left.
Okay, great. So then I'm just going to carry on, and you can all follow, and just you can finish it along. You can finish it yourselves as well when if you don't finish at the same time. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to turn mine a little bit this way, and we're going to start again at whichever end you feel more comfortable with. My daughter's left-handed, so she always starts on the other side to me. But we're going to take these first two this first pair, and we're going to just literally tie them in a knot once, and then tie them in a knot again. Make sure it's nice and tight. This is now going to be the bottom of your bag, and then we're just going to carry on. Do the next pair, tie them in knots.
I had a little question in for you, Joss, just around does it matter how wide your little strips are? But I don't think it does actually.
Actually, no, it really doesn't. You could even do some wider, some thinner, because this is what we're going to do with them. As long as you can tie them in a knot, tie them in a double knot. It does matter. Well, I suppose it does. It's quite good if they're long enough. They do need to be long enough to tie in a double knot. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear at the beginning. If you've done them too short, then you might need to go back and just snip them up so they're a bit longer. So there you go. You can see it's starting to form this knotted. So just be a bit careful. Mine's getting all bunched up underneath. Just keep it nice and flat and clean, and so that you don't get mixed up and tie the wrong ones to each other. That's quite important. It's quite satisfying. And if you don't know how to tie a knot, this is a good way to learn and also to practice. So if you're just learning how to tie knots, this is a really good way to practice your knot tying. I might even leave some of this for my daughter because she is actually just learning. She's only, well, she's almost 5. Next week it's her birthday. So I might leave some of these for her to practice her knot tying on. So there we are. We're going to carry on.
Little question in from Claire. Do we have to do the tassels, or can you sew it instead? Is one of the questions.
Of course you can sew it instead. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And you can do all sorts of things if you've got a needle and thread, or if you've got a sewing machine. This is just the version of this bag that I do when people don't want to sew, where you don't need a sewing machine or a thread or a needle. Or if you're actually, if you're actually out camping somewhere and you actually got a bit of an emergency and you've got a t-shirt and you need a bag and you've got a pair of scissors, you could just quickly make yourself a bag. So, but yeah, absolutely, you can sew it with a sewing machine. But if you're going to do that, I would say don't turn it back in right side out. Do all your sewing while it's still inside out. So then you won't see all the sewing on the outside. That makes sense. So this is the bit that takes the longest amount of time, but you can see it's starting to come together. And then what you can do as well, like, I'll just try and finish this because I know we're running out of time. But what you can do is other things, like you can use these scrap bits, for example. And again, if you're using a sewing machine, you could make that and put that inside as a little pocket, sew that in as a little pocket, or on the outside, you could have it sewn on as a little pocket. Quite handy to have it inside. So you just sew up the bottom of the sleeve and then find a place for it on the inside, like just inside there, for example. And then it's quite handy to put like your keys or your wallet or something, or your phone that you want to find quickly. You can just sew that inside there like that. So that's one thing that you can do with the sleeves. Or you can also get the neckband, this stuff, and you could cut that in half, and then you can use that to sort of bind up, to tie up these sleeve bits, which basically become your handles, and that makes them a bit more kind of bunched up so that they're a bit more comfortable sometimes to hold. Sometimes I do that. But for the person who had their sleeves left on, what you can also do is, I'll show you on this one because I think I'm going to do the same. You can use your scissors if you like fringy stuff. One idea is you can use your scissors and cut fringes onto the sleeves, and it's quite fun because when you have it on your shoulder, then the fringes are dangling down off your bag handle on your shoulder like that. So I'm just quickly showing you there, but you can do it, take a bit more time and do it more carefully, but you see, so you can just fringe it all the way along there, but don't cut it all the way across because you've got to leave some here. This is your actual handle bit. Or you can cut fringes there, and you could tie a knot here, for example, or you can do plaits, you can do bows, you can do all sorts of things once you start clipping them. So yeah, but I'm going to carry on now, try and finish the bottom of the bag. Hope everyone else is getting along there. And then the last thing to do, obviously, is to test your bag. Find something to put inside it and see what you can carry in it. My daughter uses a bag like this to keep all of her Lego in because she still uses big Lego. So that's quite handy. I use them for shopping at the farmers markets. We use them for just general purpose, but it's quite nice as well if you're just going on a little picnic. You could use a bag like this instead of taking a backpack. Sometimes if you've got a long one with really like a big one with big sleeve openings here, and you're a little person, you can actually hook it on like a backpack as well. So do try that. I've seen that before. So what's everyone planning to use their bags for, do you think? Who's got any ideas about what you're going to use your bags for?
Gemma's planning to use hers for toys and Lego. So that's quite good. Nice tidying tidying thing. And we've also got a question around what kind of weight could we hold in here? Toys and Lego for sure.
Yeah, well, good question. I mean, to be honest with you, my advice is just try it. You could try putting a saucepan in there. You could try and put, you could put a football. They're quite useful for carrying balls and things like that if you're going to play games with your friends. But yeah, you could see, I don't know. It depends on how strong the fabric of your t-shirt is, really. But I would say that the thing is with t-shirt fabric, it's quite stretchy and it's quite strong because it's very tightly knitted. So I think it would probably take quite a heavy weight in there. Maybe like a water bottle. You do have to be mindful though that actually, because it depends on how tight you've tied your knots, but it's not very good for carrying really small things like rice or nuts and raisins or other sorts of little snacks and things like that might, or even like precious little beads and things. Obviously that could fall through. But here we go now. I finished mine and it looks like that. And there I'm gonna put my hand through there, and I think this is quite a handy size for certain things. And I've still got my one on there, and I've still got my writing on this side as well. And I think I'm gonna chop this in half And I'm gonna tie up the handles. The other thing you could do if you are into sewing is you can in and out here, and you can just cinch that up with a needle and thread as well, if you like the look of that better. Then if you don't want ties, you can just in and out and stitch that up with the needle and thread. So there we are. I think my bag's quite strong. I've got some wool here from my friend who I got it from her. She's got sheep and she span that wool from her sheep, and I'm going to put that in there. And do you know what else she told me? Well, somebody else told me that these conkers, which you've probably seen all around at the moment because it's autumn time, if you put conkers in with your wool, the moths don't come, because moths don't like conkers. Who knew that? So there's a trick for anyone who's got wool clothing or wool sitting around. So you can put some conkers in, and that'll stop the moths coming to eat your wool. So I hope everyone enjoyed that, and now you know how to do it. You can practice with other t-shirts, you can show your friends, and if you want to get really clever, the next thing I'm going to try is putting 2 t-shirts together, one inside the other, to make a really strong and really thick one, and then it will have like double tassels as well on the bottom. So that's the next thing I'm going to try. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm just going to lean in like that so I can see you and you can see me, and say thanks so much for joining, and enjoy your bags.
Thanks so much, Joss. That was brilliant. Paul saying it would make a nice gym bag. That's great. And of course, it's sports, recycling sportswear. Lots of lovely comments saying people loved it. Thank you. Some people want to watch it back because they missed the start. So it will be available at the festivalofdiscovery.com on the same page that you registered. So we'll put the video up a bit later. We've got some happy customers up with Mary. And just to let you know what else is coming up in the festival, so do stay tuned. We've got some wind charm making with Mo later this afternoon on our Facebook page, following at Eden Communities. And we've also got a nice book reading from Ben Miller with a little excerpt from his new book, The Christmas Elf. If anyone would like to listen to that at 12:15. And then we've got the Thank You Tree mindfulness session this afternoon at 1 o'clock, which is also for young people. So do stay tuned and get involved. And thank you so much, Joss. That was brilliant. You probably can't see, I'm just cutting the neck off my t-shirt to make a bigger opening, but I've got a lovely bag here at this end. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your bags.
Bye.